David had always been someone who remembered his dreams. While most people forgot there's the moment they opened their eyes. His dreams stayed with him like vivid movies playing in his mind. But something had changed in recent months. His dreams weren't just memorable anymore. They were becoming incredibly detailed and intense. These weren't ordinary dreams about flying or being chased by monsters. They were elaborate stories where he and his girlfriend Mia shared amazing adventures. Together, sometimes they would be traveling to beautiful places he'd never seen before. Other times they would be having deep conversations under starlit skies or sharing quiet moments that felt more real than his actual memories. The dreams began to feel so lifelike that David would wake up confused, wondering if they had actually happened. He would turn to look at Mia sleeping beside him and feel a strange mix of disappointment and longing. In his dreams, their connection felt deeper somehow, more exciting and passionate than their everyday life together. At first, David tried to dismiss these dreams as nothing important, but they kept coming, night after night, each one more vivid than the last. He started waking up with his heart racing, feeling like he had just lived through the most incredible experiences of his life. The contrast between his dream world and reality began to bother him. One morning, after a particularly intense dream about a romantic evening that had felt absolutely perfect, David decided to write it down. He found an old notebook in his drawer and began describing everything he could remember. The words flowed easily, as if the dream was still happening around him. Writing about the dream felt both embarrassing and liberating. Some of the details made him blush as he wrote them down, but he couldn't stop himself. There was something therapeutic about getting these vivid experiences out of his head and onto paper. It was like he was preserving something beautiful that would otherwise fade away. Days passed, and the dreams continued. Each morning, David found himself reaching for the notebook, adding new entries. The notebook became his secret companion, filled with stories of romantic dinners, surprise getaways, and moments of perfect understanding between him and Mia. He wrote about conversations they'd never had, places they'd never been, and experiences that felt more meaningful than most of his real memories. David began to realize that these dreams were revealing things about himself that he hadn't known before. They showed him what he truly wanted from his relationship, what kind of connection he was craving. The dreams weren't just random images. They were like windows into his deepest hopes and desires. He started hiding the notebook in his bedside drawer, feeling both protective and ashamed of its contents. Part of him worried that if anyone read it, they would think he was dissatisfied with his real life or that he was some kind of hopeless romantic living in a fantasy world. The truth was more complicated than that. David loved Mia deeply, but their relationship had settled into comfortable routines. They went to work, came home, watched television, and went to bed. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't the kind of passionate, adventurous connection he found himself dreaming about. In his dreams, he and Mia were fearless together. They took risks, shared secrets, and created magical moments that took his breath away. Dream Mia seemed to understand him completely, anticipating his thoughts and desires in ways that felt almost supernatural. She was spontaneous and mysterious, always surprising him with new adventures. Meanwhile, Mia had been noticing changes in David's behavior. He seemed more distracted lately, often staring off into space with a dreamy expression on his face. Sometimes she would catch him smiling to himself, as if he was remembering something wonderful that she wasn't part of. When she asked him about it, he would just shrug and say he was thinking about work or some random memory. She also noticed that he had been going to bed earlier and seemed almost eager to fall asleep. In the mornings, he would lie in bed for longer than usual, his eyes closed but clearly awake, as if he was trying to hold onto something that was slipping away. One evening, while David was in the shower, Mia's phone charger stopped working. She remembered that David kept a spare one in his bedside drawer. As she opened the drawer to look for it, her hand brushed against the leather notebook she'd never seen before. Curiosity got the better of her. She opened the notebook to the first page and began reading. What she found there made her heart race, but not with anger or hurt. Instead, she felt a strange mixture of fascination and excitement. The notebook was filled with beautiful stories about the two of them. David had written about romantic adventures, deep conversations, and moments of incredible connection. His writing was detailed and passionate, describing feelings and experiences that took her breath away. As she read page after page, Mia realized that these weren't memories or plans, they were dreams. David had been documenting his dreams about their relationship, and they were far more romantic and exciting than anything they had ever actually experienced together. Instead of feeling hurt that David was apparently unsatisfied with their real relationship, Mia found herself feeling grateful. Here was a map to David's heart, a detailed guide to his deepest desires and dreams. He had unknowingly shown her exactly what would make him happiest, what kind of connection he was longing for. She carefully put the notebook back exactly where she had found it, her mind racing with possibilities. An idea was forming, something that would change both of their lives in ways she couldn't yet imagine. Mia spent the next 3 days secretly reading David's dream journal whenever she got the chance. Each entry revealed more about the man she thought she knew completely. His dreams weren't just romantic fantasies, they were detailed stories, filled with emotion, adventure, and a deep longing for connection that made her heart ache. One particular dream caught her attention. David had written about an evening that started with a candlelit dinner at home. But not just any dinner. He described the specific meal, homemade pasta with a wine she'd never heard of before. He wrote about soft jazz music playing in the background, the way the candles cast dancing shadows on the walls, and how they talked for hours about their dreams and fears. In his dream, after dinner, they had cleared the table together and started dancing slowly in their living room. He described the song that played, how Mia had rested her head on his shoulder, and the way the whole evening felt like something out of a movie. The dream ended with them feeling closer than they ever had before, understanding each other on a level that felt almost magical. Reading this made Mia realize something important. David wasn't just dreaming about romance, he was dreaming about intimacy, about feeling truly connected to her. The physical details were just the surface. What he really wanted was to feel like they were truly seeing each other, really sharing their lives in a deep and meaningful way. That's when Mia decided to do something that would change everything. She was going to make David's dream come true, exactly as he had written it, without him knowing that she had read his journal. The planning took her to more days. She had to research the wine he mentioned, figure out how to make the pasta dish he described, and find the jazz album he had written about. She even practiced the recipe twice when David was at work, making sure she could get it perfect. On Friday evening, Mia told David she wanted to cook him a special dinner. She had already set everything up during her lunch break, hiding the candles and preparing all the ingredients. David seemed happy but not particularly surprised. They often cooked together on weekends. But when David walked into their dining room that evening, his face changed completely. Mia had recreated every single detail from his dream. The same candles were arranged exactly as he had described them. The jazz music was playing softly from their speakers. Even the flowers on the table matched what he had written about. David stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the scene in front of him. His mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Mia pretended not to notice his shock, acting as if this was just a normal romantic dinner she had planned. "I thought we could try something different tonight," she said casually, though her heart was pounding with excitement. "I found this amazing wine at the store, and I've been wanting to make homemade pasta for weeks." David sat down slowly, his eyes still wide with disbelief, as Mia served the exact meal from his dream. He kept looking around the room as if he was trying to figure out if he was still asleep. The wine tasted exactly as he had imagined it would. The pasta was perfect. Even the conversation seemed to flow exactly as it had in his dream. "This is incredible," David said, his voice shaking slightly. It's like I've experienced this before." Mia smiled and reached across the table to take his hand. "Maybe we're just really connected," she said. "Maybe we want the same things without even realizing it." As the evening continued, David became more and more amazed. Every detail was perfect. From the way the candlelight reflected in Mia's eyes to the topics they found themselves discussing. They talked about things they had never shared before, childhood dreams, fears about the future, in hopes they had been too shy to voice. When the soft song from his dreams started playing, David stood up without thinking and extended his hand to Mia. "Would you like to dance?" he asked, his voice filled with wonder. They moved together in their small living room, swaying to the music just as they had in his dream. But this time it was even better because it was real. Mia fit perfectly in his arms, and when she rested, her head on his shoulder, David felt like his heart might burst with happiness. "I don't understand how this is happening," David whispered as they danced. "Everything feels so perfect, like it was meant to be exactly this way." Mia looked up at him, her eyes sparkling in the candlelight. "Maybe some things are just meant to be," she said softly. That night, as they cleaned up together, David couldn't stop talking about how amazing the evening had been. He kept mentioning little details, the taste of the wine, the way the music had matched the mood perfectly, how natural their conversation had felt. "It's like you read my mind," he said, laughing as he helped her blow out the candles. "Everything was exactly what I would have wanted, even things I didn't know I wanted." Mia felt a thrill of satisfaction mixed with love. Seeing David so happy, so alive and excited, made all her secret planning worth it. But more than that, she had discovered something about herself too. Creating this magical evening had awakened something creative and adventurous in her that she didn't know existed. As they got ready for bed, David kept shaking his head in amazement. "I'm going to remember this night forever," he said. It felt like living in a dream. Mia smiled to herself, already thinking about the next entry in David's journal and wondering what other dreams she might be able to bring to life. After the incredible evening they had shared, David found himself looking forward to sleep in a way he never had before. His dreams had always been vivid, but now they felt like previews of possibilities. He began writing in his journal with even more detail, documenting every aspect of the amazing adventures his mind created. Meanwhile, Mia had become completely fascinated with her secret project. She read each new dream entry like it was a treasure map, studying every detail and figuring out how to make it happen in real life. The success of their candlelit dinner had given her confidence, and she was ready to try something more ambitious. David's next dream was about a surprise weekend trip to a small cabin in the mountains. In his dream, Mia had mysteriously packed their bags and driven him to a place he'd never seen before. The cabin was cozy and rustic, with a fireplace and large windows overlooking a peaceful lake. They had spent the weekend hiking, talking by the fire, and feeling completely cut off from the stress of their everyday lives. When Mia read this entry, she knew she had to make it happen. She spent hours online researching mountain cabins for rent, looking for one that matched David's description exactly. Finally, she found the perfect place, a small wooden cabin by a lake, about 2 hours from their city. The tricky part was making it seem spontaneous. Mia planned everything carefully, secretly packing their bags and hiding them in her car. On Friday afternoon, she called David at work with excitement in her voice. "I have a surprise for you," she said. "Can you leave work a little early today? I have something special planned for the weekend." David was curious, but agreed. When he got home, Mia was waiting by the car with a mysterious smile. "Get in," she said. "We're going on an adventure." As they drove toward the mountains, David kept asking where they were going, but Mia just smiled and told him to be patient. The scenery began to change from city streets to winding country roads, and David felt a strange sense of familiarity, as if he had traveled this exact route before. When they finally arrived at the cabin, David's jaw dropped. It looked exactly like the place from his dream, the wooden walls, the stone chimney, even the small dock extending into the calm lake. He stood by the car for a long moment, staring at the scene in complete amazement. "How did you find this place?" he asked, his voice filled with wonder. Mia shrugged casually, though her heart was racing with excitement. "I just thought we needed to get away from everything for a while. Sometimes you have to trust your instincts about what feels right." That weekend was magical in ways that even surpassed David's dream. They hiked along forest trails that seemed to lead to hidden waterfalls and scenic overlooks. In the evenings, they sat by the fireplace, sharing stories and dreams while the flames danced in front of them. They cooked simple meals together and fell asleep to the sound of water gently lapping against the shore. David couldn't shake the feeling that he had experienced all of this before. Every turn in the hiking trail, every view from the cabin windows, even the way the morning light streamed through the curtains, it all felt like a beautiful memory. That was happening again. I feel like I've been here before, he told me as they sat on the dock Sunday morning, watching the sunrise paint the lake in shades of gold and pink. Everything feels so familiar, but I know we've never been to this place. Mia leaned against his shoulder, smiling to herself. Maybe some places just feel like home right away, she said. Maybe we're supposed to be here. When they returned to the city, David immediately wrote about the weekend in his journal. Comparing it to his original dream, the similarities were so exact that it almost scared him. He began to wonder if he was somehow psychic, or if there was some kind of spiritual connection between him and Mia that was stronger than anything he had ever imagined. Encouraged by another perfect success, Mia decided to try something even more creative. David had recently written about a dream where he came home from work to find mysterious love letters hidden around their apartment. In his dream, each letter contained a clue that led to the next one, like a romantic treasure hunt that ended with a surprise that made him feel incredibly loved and appreciated. This project required even more planning. Mia had to write the letters in a way that sounded mysterious but loving, create clues that would lead David through their apartment in the right order, and time everything perfectly so the letters would be discovered exactly when David got home. From work, she spent her lunch breaks writing draft after draft of each letter, making sure they captured the romantic and playful tone from David's dream. She practiced hiding them in the exact locations he had described, behind picture frames, inside book pages, taped under furniture where only someone following the clues would think to look. On the chosen day, Mia left work early and spent an hour carefully placing each letter in its hiding spot. The final surprise was a home-cooked meal waiting in the oven with a note that simply said, "Thank you for letting me into your dreams." When David walked through their front door that evening, he found the first letter taped to the inside of their coat closet. His hand shook as he read the mysterious message. That led him to search behind their largest picture frame. There he found the second letter, which sent him looking inside his favorite book, each letter built on the last, creating a story of love and appreciation that made David's heart race with excitement and confusion. How could Mia have known to create something so similar to his private dreams? The whole experience felt like magic, like the universe was conspiring to make his deepest wishes come true. By the time he found the final surprise waiting in the kitchen, David was overwhelmed with emotion. He had never felt so understood, so loved, or so connected to another person. But he also couldn't escape the growing mystery of how these incredible coincidences kept happening in his life. David's life had become something he could never have imagined. Every few weeks, something incredible would happen that matched his dreams perfectly. The pattern was becoming impossible to ignore, and it was starting to make him question everything he thought he knew about reality. He began keeping two journals, one for his original dreams and another where he documented all the amazing coincidences that kept happening in his waking life. When he compared them side by side, the similarities were so exact that they gave him chills. The turning point came when David had a dream that seemed impossible for anyone to recreate. In this dream, he and Mia were at his office building late at night when the security guard, who David had never really talked to before, revealed that he was actually a retired dance instructor. The guard then taught them both how to tango in the empty lobby, while classical music played from an old radio he kept in his security booth. The dream was so specific and involved so many elements that David couldn't control: the security guards, hidden past, the radio, the empty building at night, that he felt certain this was finally just a normal dream that would stay in his imagination. But David had become suspicious enough that he decided to test his theory. Late one evening, when he was alone at home, he opened his dream journal to a blank page. Instead of writing about a real dream, he created a completely fictional story. He wrote about Mia surprising him with a picnic in the park where they had their first date, complete with specific details about the food, the blanket, and even a street musician who would happen to walk by playing their favorite song. David made sure to include details that would require planning and coordination, things that couldn't happen by pure coincidence. He wrote about Mia bringing homemade sandwiches wrapped in brown paper, with their initials written on them, and a thermos of hot chocolate even though it was summer. He even included a detail about finding an old photograph of themselves hidden under the picnic blanket. He felt guilty about creating a fake entry, but his need to understand what was happening had become overwhelming. He carefully placed the journal back in its usual spot and waited to see what would happen. 3 days later, Mia called him at work with excitement in her voice. "I have a surprise for you after work today," she said. "Meet me at Riverside Park at 6 o'clock. You know that spot where we used to go when we first started dating." David's heart started pounding. This was exactly what he had written in his fake dream entry. When he arrived at the park, Mia was waiting with a picnic basket and a checkered blanket spread under their favorite tree. Everything was exactly as he had written it, the brown paper wrapping on the sandwiches, the thermos of hot chocolate, even the old photograph tucked under one corner of the blanket. David sat down slowly, staring at Mia with a mixture of amazement and growing realization. When the street musician appeared right on schedule, playing the exact song David had invented in his fake dream, he knew beyond any doubt that someone had been reading his journal. "Mia," he said quietly, his voice shaking slightly, "we need to talk." Something in his tone made Mia look up from unpacking the picnic basket. She saw the serious expression on his face and immediately knew that something had changed. "How long have you been reading my dream journal?" David asked directly. The question hit Mia like a physical blow. All the color drained from her face, and her hands stopped moving. For a moment, she considered trying to deny it, but the look in David's eyes told her that he already knew the truth. "Since the beginning," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Since the night I found it looking for your phone charger." David nodded slowly, as if confirming something he had suspected. The candlelit dinner, the mountain cabin, the treasure hunt letters, and now this picnic. "You've been making my dreams come true." Tears started forming in Mia's eyes. "I'm so sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I never meant for it to become such a big lie. At first, I just wanted to surprise you with something beautiful. But then I saw how happy it made you, and I couldn't stop." David was quiet for a long time, processing everything. Part of him felt betrayed. His most private thoughts had been invaded without his permission. But another part of him was overwhelmed by the realization of how much effort and love Mia had put into making his dreams reality. "Why?" he finally asked. "Why go through all this trouble instead of just talking to me?" Mia wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "Because your dreams showed me who you really are inside," she said. "They showed me what makes you happy, what you really want from life and from us. I fell in love with the person I discovered in those pages, someone who dreams of adventure and romance and deep connection." She took a shaky breath before continuing. "I realized that I wanted to be the kind of person who could make those dreams come true. I wanted to be brave enough and creative enough to give you the life you were dreaming about." David felt his anger beginning to mix with something else, a deep appreciation for what Mia had been trying to do. "But you violated my privacy," he said. "Those were my private thoughts." "I know," Mia said, tears flowing freely now. "I know I crossed a line, and I'm sorry. I kept telling myself I would tell you eventually, but each time I made another dream come true, you seemed so happy that I couldn't bear to ruin it." They sat in silence for several minutes, both lost in their own thoughts. The picnic lay forgotten between them as they tried to figure out what this revelation meant for their relationship. "The dreams that came true," David said finally, "they were some of the best experiences of my life." Mia looked up at him hopefully. "Really, really?" David confirmed. "But I need to know that I can trust you. I need to know that you won't keep secrets from me, even if you think they're good secrets." Mia nodded eagerly. Never again, she promised. I want us to be honest with each other about everything. As the sun began to set over the park, they both realized that their relationship had reached a crossroads. They could either let this betrayal destroy what they had built together, or they could find a way to turn it into something even stronger. The days following their conversation in the park were some of the most difficult David and Mia had ever experienced together. They both felt like they were walking on thin ice, unsure of how to move forward after such a major revelation. David found himself looking at Mia differently, wondering what other secrets she might be keeping, while Mia felt guilty and scared that she had ruined the best thing in her life. They talked for hours every evening, sometimes arguing, sometimes crying, but always trying to understand each other better. David admitted that while he felt hurt by the privacy violation, he couldn't deny that the past few months had been the happiest of his life. Mia explained how reading his dreams had made her feel closer to him than ever before, like she finally understood what he needed to feel truly loved. I've never felt as connected to anyone as I did when I was making your dreams come true, Mia confessed one evening as they sat on their couch, still trying to work through their feelings. It wasn't just about surprising you. It was about becoming the person who could make you that happy. David thought about this for a long time. The weird thing is, he said slowly, living those dreams taught me things about myself too. I discovered that I actually am someone who wants adventure and romance and spontaneity. Before this, I thought I was just a boring person who happened to have exciting dreams. That conversation was the beginning of their healing process. They realized that while Mia's methods had been wrong, the results had shown them both who they could be together when they were brave enough to pursue their deepest desires. After a week of difficult conversations, they decided to try something completely new. Instead of Mia secretly reading David's dreams, they would share them openly. David would tell Mia about his dreams and desires, and together they would decide which ones they wanted to explore in real life. The first time David voluntarily shared a dream with Mia, he felt terrified and excited at the same time. It was a simple dream about them taking a cooking class together and learning to make something they had never tried before. As he described it, he watched Mia's face light up with the same enthusiasm she used to get from reading his journal. Secretly, "That sounds amazing," she said. "Let's do it, but this time, let's plan it together." They spent the evening researching cooking classes in their area, laughing as they read reviews and debated which type of cuisine they wanted to learn. The planning process turned out to be almost as much fun as the actual experience would be. When they attended the cooking class the following weekend, something magical happened. Because they had chosen this adventure together, openly and honestly, it felt even more special than the secret surprises had been. David didn't have the strange feeling of experiencing something he had already dreamed about. Instead, he felt the pure joy of sharing a new experience with someone who truly understood what would make him happy. "This is better," he told Mia, as they laughed together over their attempts to fold dumplings correctly. "This feels more real because we chose it together." Mia felt the same way. Creating surprises in secret had been thrilling, but sharing the planning process with David made her feel like they were truly partners in building their happiness together. As weeks passed, their new system evolved naturally. David continued writing in his journal, but now he shared the entries he wanted to explore with Mia. Some dreams stayed private, personal thoughts and feelings that he wasn't ready to share yet, and Mia respected that boundary completely. Other dreams became the inspiration for adventures they planned together. They started a tradition of sitting down every few weeks to look through David's recent dreams and decide which ones they wanted to turn into reality. Some were simple, like trying a new restaurant or taking a day trip to a nearby town. Others were more elaborate, requiring weeks of planning and preparation. But the most surprising discovery was that their own creativity, working together, often produced experiences that were even better than David's original dreams. When they combined David's imaginative dreams with Mia's talent for planning and execution, plus their shared enthusiasm and open communication, they created adventures that neither of them could have imagined alone. They also started encouraging each other to dream bigger. Mia began sharing her own dreams and desires, things she had never felt brave enough to voice before. David discovered that he loved helping to make Mia's dreams come true, just as much as she enjoyed making his reality. One evening, as they planned a weekend camping trip inspired by one of David's recent dreams, Mia looked at him with tears of happiness in her eyes. "I never imagined that being honest could make everything so much better," she said. "When I was reading your journal secretly, I thought I was showing you how much I loved you. But this feels like real love, where we trust each other enough to be completely open." David reached across the table and took her hand. "I love this version of us," he said. "We're not just living my dreams anymore. We're creating new dreams together." Their relationship had transformed into something neither of them had expected. When this journey began, they had learned that the most beautiful adventures weren't the ones stolen from dreams and recreated in secret, but the ones they had the courage to imagine and create together while wide awake. What started as a story about making dreams come true had become something much more powerful. A story about two people learning to trust each other completely and discovering that reality, when built together with love and honesty, could be even more amazing than any dream. They kept David's original dream journal as a reminder of where their journey had started. But they also started a new journal together, one filled with adventures they planned as a team, dreams they shared openly, and experiences they created through their combined imagination and love. In the end, they learned that the most incredible magic wasn't in making secret dreams come true, but in being brave enough to dream new dreams together and make them reality through partnership, trust, and unconditional love.